What's up, everybody? My name is Tommy Streeter.
I'm Zach Dawson.
We're with Bare Knuckle Recovery. So we're making this video today to address something that a lot of guys kind of have a hard time talking about, and that's mental health. And we're going to look at mental health from the standpoint of a traffic light. So when you think about a traffic light, you've got green, which means go, everything's good. You've got yellow, which means slow down, obviously, or maybe speed up depending on the car you're driving, or red, which means stop. So we'll start out with the red. The way that we associate mental health with the traffic light, the red traffic light, is things are not really going so well. You're in the red. Things may be kind of bad. So what do you do to kind of get out of that spot? Zach, what do you do if you're having a bad day? And just so you guys know, Zach and I are both in long-term recovery from drug and alcohol addiction. So this is something that we definitely struggled with before we got sober, but just because we got sober didn't mean that all of our mental health struggles went away. That was a big part of the reason both of us started using drugs and alcohol in the first place, is because we had just, our mental health was pretty terrible, honestly. So let's talk about it, when we were using. If you were having a bad day, there was only one thing to do, right?
And that was use.
And that was use. Now, we don't live like that anymore, but again, just because we got sober doesn't mean that all of our problems got solved right away and everything is just easy all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So for me, I'll start out, if I wake up, maybe I wake up and I've got a really bad headache one day, or I wake up and I got a flat tire on my car, or anything that just is an automatic bad start to my day. I've kind of got a choice right there. Am I going to let this ruin my whole day? Or am I going to do something else to kind of forget about it for a little bit? For me, probably the first thing that I would do would be call one of my buddies that is also in recovery, and just, it's okay to call someone and be like, man, I'm having a terrible day today. Like, not really in a great mindset right now. Like, it's okay to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I know for me, it was always just a vicious circle. I was using because I was depressed, and I was depressed because I was using. But really diving down deep into it, in my addiction, I was just always depressed. Yeah. There was no good days, there was no bad days. I worked manual labor. I hated waking up every single day just to go to work or start that process over and over and over again. It was so tough for me to just really dive into me or be okay with myself because I wasn't happy in all aspects of my life.
So I'm going to guess, sorry to interrupt, but when you were in active addiction and you were so depressed all the time, how often did you reach out to somebody and talk about how you were feeling?
Never. I was so wrapped up in that I couldn't ask for help. And as men, we're conditioned to grow up as, oh, you can't cry in front of somebody. You can't tell somebody you're sad or that you're angry, or, you can't do any of that type of stuff.
You bottle it up and push through, right?
Exactly.
And that's where that got you and me.
Correct.
Bottling everything up and just trying to push through is what kind of landed us in active addiction in the first place, because we both tried to self-medicate instead of actually addressing any of the anxiety or depression or whatever it was that we were dealing with.
Absolutely.
And so now, like I was saying, now that we're both in recovery, we don't have to do that anymore. We don't have to just bottle everything up and try to push through, because we know where that will land us. We've got real life experience of, where that's going to land us. It's not going to be good. So I think for me, the best thing that I can do if I'm having a bad day, if I'm in a bad spot, is just reaching out to somebody that I trust, that I know, that can relate to me, and just talking to them, telling them what's going on. And, believe it or not, anytime I've told somebody something bad that's happening to me or something that I'm going through, they're probably going through something just as bad, if not worse. And, we can both help each other try to get through that. Basically saying that you don't have to do it alone. That's the main thing.
Yeah,
you don't have to do it alone.
For me, step one is always to make that first phone call, because I know where it takes me to not make that phone call. So I'm always going to at least make that phone call. And if that doesn't suffice, or it's not sufficient enough, I move on to the next step.
Yeah.
There's so many things that I can do. For us being in recovery, I can go to a meeting. We work in recovery, so I can come to work and actually talk to people that are exactly like me.
Yep.
So
go to the gym.
Exactly. I
know that's your favorite thing to do.
I know. I love it.
All right. So if you're in that red area, red zone, whatever you want to call it, you don't have to go through that alone. You know, find some people that you trust, reach out to them, and just talk to them about what's going on.
Be honest with yourself about what you're going through.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
the easiest thing to do. Is we are our own worst enemies in life. You know, I'm the first person that can tell me I'm fat, or that I'm ugly, or that I'm dumb, or whatever the question may be. I'm the first person that can always beat myself down with that.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
being honest about those things, like, is this really true? Or am I really that way? Or did I affect somebody else with what I had said? Being honest is so pertinent to figuring out where I'm at in my stoplight, you know, red, yellow,
Absolutely.
green.
All right, so we'll skip yellow for now. We're gonna jump ahead to the green. So Zach and I were talking a little bit about this before we started. I think for the most part, we pretty much sit in the green area, like in between, you know, kind of yellow and green. Like things, when you compare our lives now to our old lives, it's hard for me to say that I'm just having an absolutely terrible day, regardless of what's happening. And that comes down to, like you were saying, honesty. If I'm being honest with myself, whatever I'm going through right now in this not great day, it's better than the days where when I was living in the park trying to find out where I was going to get my next bag of heroin from. So
or me
comparatively,
or me fighting with my wife, trying to get money or steal money from anybody that I could to get my next fix.
yeah.
And that was just, you know, like I said, that vicious circle.
I imagine the arguments you have with your wife now are much more calm and
Yeah, we don't have that many arguments like that anymore.
All right, so you're in the green. Green means that, you know, everything is going well. Maybe you just got a promotion, you just got a new car, you and your girlfriend or your wife or whatever are doing great. Like, just things are going well. So what can you do to try to make sure that you stay in the green? And if something bad does end up happening to you that day or the next day, making sure that you don't go straight from green to the red. So for me, we already kind of talked about it a little bit, is honesty about my situation, and most importantly is gratitude. If I'm in the green, gratitude has to be number one, because again, there was so many days where I had absolutely nothing and no food and no car, no house, none of that stuff. And just it, you know, now being grateful for the simple things that I do have. If I'm being honest with myself and I'm practicing gratitude, it's really hard for me to just have an absolutely terrible day.
Yeah. And for me, like, you know, I'm in long-term recovery, so I preach this to people so often that I have to take my own advice, and that's doing what got me to my long-term recovery, continuing to work on that and progress with it, like going to AA meetings or NA meetings. You know, I see so many people that do therapy that works for, like, little things like that continue to work for people to get into long-term recovery is the same thing as staying with my mental health. Like, those things all work for me getting to where I'm at, and now it continues to work for me to keep me where I'm at.
And that is something that we see pretty often, where someone, you know, say maybe they go to a detox facility and then they go to an outpatient facility and they're doing counseling and they're going to meetings and they're doing all this stuff. They get their job back, they get their wife back, they're seeing their kids, they get the car, like, you know, they're getting all these things back, and now they start thinking, well, everything's great now.
Yeah.
So I don't need to keep doing all that stuff that I was doing 6 months ago or a year ago. I can kind of, you know, start shifting my focus to just work and my family. That doesn't really work out.
Yeah, life gets in life's way.
It very rarely works out. So making sure that you're still doing whatever you were doing to get yourself to that green area, absolutely. And again, that can still come down to just honesty and gratitude. You know, I think even everything that you just explained, making sure that you're still doing all those things, that comes down to honesty.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest with myself, you know, brutally honest with myself, I cannot sit here and say, well, all that stuff I was doing was great, but I don't need to do it anymore.
Right.
That's a lie. That's me lying to myself.
Yeah, and we see it so often that when people relapse, they say, you know, first it started with my depression or my anxiety, and then it got too much, so my only scapegoat was going back to what I know, which was using drugs or alcohol. And it's so often that we see that. And why does that stuff keep continuing to happen? Because they stopped doing exactly what they said that they were going to continue to do. Yep. That got them to where they were having success.
Absolutely. So, all right. So now to yellow, which is kind of in the middle of green, where, you know, things are good, you're having a good day, whatever. and red where things are just terrible and you're having an awful day. Yellow is, things aren't great. They're not terrible. Maybe not the best day you've ever had. Definitely not the worst day you've ever had. I think you have to decide, am I okay sitting at this yellow light, not really doing anything to improve it, but trying to make sure that I don't do anything or let something drag me down to the red. If it's me personally, I'm not okay with just sitting in the yellow.
Neither am I.
If there's something that I can do to try to improve the situation that I'm in or try to improve my day, because one yellow day for me can easily turn into a red day tomorrow.
Absolutely.
If I don't do something to try to get myself out of that. And honestly, that's kind of going to be a lot of the same things that we talked about when you're in the red, how to get out of it. Reaching out to people that you know and trust, talking about what's going on. I think another thing that is really beneficial for me is trying to get outside of myself and help out some other people that may be struggling. That has been something since the day I got sober that has been beneficial to me.
Me as well. I mean, when I started this, I was 2 weeks off of drug court. So it was just another notch in my belt that I could continue to work on to get myself to where I wanted to be, to actually be happy, to want to wake up and go to work and, have friends that are in recovery or that are exactly like me that have suffered from mental health issues and things like that. Just really trying to focus on me. Like sometimes in my being where I was, I have to be selfish. So meaning like I have to do things that are okay for me and not just constantly trying to make everybody else happy. So doing self-care, like going out and just getting away. I have 3 small kids. Sometimes it's just always crazy. So getting away and being able to be Zach or be a human or, whatever the case may be, instead of just being a father or a husband or
absolutely
somebody that works in recovery, trying to help everybody else, because that can be daunting as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you got like a hobby, something that you enjoy doing, like whether it's, I don't know, going to the gym or drawing or fishing or hiking or hunting, I mean, there's a billion things that you can do. Just doing something to get just a little bit of, you time and just kind of refocus everything. And again, I think practicing gratitude is huge for all 3 of these situations when it comes down to it, because if it weren't for me, and let me say something. Gratitude is something that you really do have to practice.
Yes.
And that kind of sounds weird. Maybe if you've never heard that before, it really sounds weird, but it really is something that you have to practice. And the way that I started doing that when I got sober was literally making a list every single day when I woke up of just 3 or 4 things that I was grateful for. And I would try to not use the same thing over and over and over, like every day. Like if today's Monday,
that's just redundant.
If today's Monday, I can't use what I used on Sunday to be grateful for. Maybe you start over every week, because eventually, maybe you won't ever run out of things. I probably could make a new list every day for a pretty long time and not repeat anything. But that's just something that was huge for me. So.
Yeah, and even just the little things, like taking appreciation in the little things. Like people take for granted, the sunset or, being out in nature or actually being able to have, that 10 minutes to yourself. Like I used to think like, oh, well, I didn't have an hour, so it didn't work. It was pointless. Those things were just running in my head constantly because I wasn't grateful for what I was doing or being able to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, all right, I hope that someone found something beneficial from this video. I know for a lot of men specifically, it's hard to talk about your mental health. We already addressed that a little bit when we started this video. For so long, when we were young, we were told these are not things that you talk about and you bottle it up, but we cannot live like that.
Speak up.
That mindset has honestly been incredibly detrimental to our generation and the generation before us, I believe. So, if you're struggling with anything at all, just reach out to somebody, tell somebody what's going on, find somebody that you trust, reach out to one of us, reach out to Josh, reach out to somebody that you know that you can talk to.
A trusted person.
Yep, absolutely. So yeah, again, I hope somebody found something beneficial from this video, and thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.